Good afternoon once again and welcome back from lunch. I hope we all enjoyed ourselves. I'm doing this presentation on behalf of my CEO, Mr. Simon Maji, who was here earlier moderating the last session. I work at the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and we are mandated by government to promote, encourage, facilitate, and retain investments in Ghana. Before I start my presentation, I'd like to know who we have in the room. So help me, how many are Ghanaians here by hand? And how many do we have non-Ghanaians from the African continent? All right, thank you very much. I'm just waiting for my presentation. Okay, so a brief of how my presentation is going to go. I'll be talking about Ghana. So a brief about Ghana, reasons why we should invest in Ghana, some sectors of interest available for investments, and then I'll delve into some of the incentives that are available for these opportunities to materialize if you're interested in investing in Ghana. Then I'll dive in and add on to some of the government initiatives that are supporting some of these investment opportunities, and then talk a bit about the GIPC and how we facilitate investments into Ghana, and then I'll close off by encouraging us to invest in Ghana. Thank you. Next slide. So Ghana's economy, and a lot has been said in the morning and in the afternoon by our superiors and our leaders on the continent. So Ghana's economic story today is one of stabilization and renewed confidence. Economic growth rebounded to approximately 5.5% in the year that just ended, and inflation as at December 2025 for Ghana was at 5.4%, and then export earnings reached nearly 18 billion by August 2025, whilst gross international, a more predictable macro trajectory, and an improving cost of capital outlook. So can we go to the slide that talks about reasons to invest in Ghana? Yeah. Investors choose Ghana not only for incentives, but for certainty. Certainty of law, certainty of institutions, and certainty of policy execution. Ghana offers long-standing political stability, an independent judiciary, and a dedicated commercial court for disputes, for business disputes. And I must add that at the GIPC, we are currently awaiting a new law. Our bill has been sent to Parliament. There are expected to be discussions in the month that is coming. So we are hoping that at least by Q1, there will be a new GIPC law that encourages and puts in more confidence for investors. And in there would have specifically a guiding provision that addresses investor grievances in that bill. Currently, we do address investor grievances, but having the law backing that would encourage investors to have more confidence if they ever encounter any disputes. Investors are guaranteed full transfer of capital and profits and dividends under Ghanaian law, alongside protection against discrimination and expropriation. Ghana also hosts the AFCFTA Secretariat, and a lot has been said about that this afternoon. Beyond hosting, we are aligning industrial policy, logistics infrastructure, and investor facilitation to enable businesses to produce in Ghana and scale across the African markets. Next slide, please. So here are a few, some investment opportunities. This is not exhaustive, but for our setting, these are a number of them I'll be talking about. When we talk about the electric vehicles and green mobility, Ghana is positioning itself early in Africa's electric mobility value chain, from assembly to charging infrastructure, skills development, and battery recycling. A concrete opportunity exists in EV assembly and charging infrastructure development around Accra, Tema, for those of you know terrain, and Kumasi, supported by Ghana's automotive development policy in emerging lithium supply from Eweya, where it has been found. Investors can assemble for the domestic market and export duty-free across ECOWAS and increasingly under the FCATA. This opportunity is bankable because it is policy-backed, supported by growing urban transport demand and structured for regional exports. Next slide, please. The next is about pharmaceuticals and healthcare manufacturing. The pandemic underscored Africa's pharmaceutical vulnerability, and Ghana's response is industrial, not import-based. Ghana is actively seeking partners to establish local production of generic medicines and vaccines. One clear opportunity is the WHO-compliant generic drug manufacturing facility serving Ghana's National Health Insurance Scheme while exporting to neighboring ECOWAS markets where medicine demand is rising. And this opportunity benefits from guaranteed domestic uptake, strong regulatory institutions, and sustained regional demand. Next slide, please. Mining and minerals for industrialization. Ghana's mineral strategy has shifted decisively from extraction to value addition, and a lot has been said about value addition this afternoon. A flagship opportunity is the integrated bauxite aluminum value chain. Ghana is inviting private partners into bauxite mining at Nguendi and Chibi, linked to local refining and aluminum smelting, supported by captive power solutions. This approach creates a full value chain rather than raw exports. And under the AFCFTA, aluminum imports produced in Ghana can supply construction, packaging, and manufacturing markets across Africa. Next slide, please. Agriculture and agro-industrialization. This has been and will and continue to be one of the sectors that creates a lot of jobs. And looking into the future, agriculture is no longer subsistence. It is becoming an industrial growth engine. A highly bankable opportunity exists in large-scale grain storage and processing facilities in northern Ghana. Investors can develop silos and processing plants for maize, rice, and soya, reducing post-harvest losses while supplying poultry, food processing, and export markets. Demand is immediate. Import substitution potential is strong, and margins in storage and processing are attractive. Next slide. So all these areas and investment opportunities that I've mentioned are being backed by some government initiatives, and one of them, next slide please, the 24-hour economy and accelerated export program. Now this initiative is about productivity, scale, and competitiveness, not extended working hours alone. Under the program, export-oriented manufacturing parks operating multiple shifts will qualify for targeted fiscal incentives, and we are eagerly waiting for these incentives to be approved. Practical examples include textiles, food processing, and pharmaceutical manufacturing, operating 24-hour cycles to meet export demand without expanding capital footprints. Next slide. There's also the Volta Economic Corridor. Now, this is Ghana's most ambitious spatial investment strategy. Within this corridor, investors can develop integrated irrigated farming and agro-processing clusters, such as rice or horticulture production, supported by irrigation, lake transport, and nearby processing facilities, all linked directly to export logistics. Next slide. Then there's the big push. The infrastructure in Ghana is being treated as an economic asset, not a fiscal burden. Under the Big Push program, there are PPP opportunities in priority road corridors linking production zones to ports, particularly feeder roads and logistics infrastructure supporting agribusiness and mining exports. Next slide. There's also the digital jobs, creative economy, and tourism. Now, under the digital jobs, a practical opportunity exists in establishing ICT and business process outsourcing BPOs hubs within Ghana's zonal ICT parks, aligned with the 1 million coders program and growing regional demand for English-speaking digital services. There's also the creative economy and tourism. In tourism, there's a Marine Drive project which offers private developers opportunities to invest in hotels, entertainment facilities, and mixed-use developments along Accra's prime coastal line, anchored by the Black Star Experience Plan. Next slide. Along with these government initiatives are incentives that would support the investments that are to coming. And they are in two folds. We have the fiscal incentives and then non-fiscal incentives. So for areas like farming and agro-processing, there's 100% corporate income tax exemption for those who are going into cocoa farming, and for cocoa byproducts, agro-processing, cash crops, tree crops, livestock, there's a 1% CIT for 5 years, and then after that, there's a standard rate. For manufacturing, there's the locational incentives. So if you're coming in to do manufacturing and you're going to be locating your project outside the regional capital, say outside Accra and Tema, we have the custom income tax of 18.75%, and for those outside the regional capitals, it is 12.5%. Then there's for the export of non-traditional goods, there's an 8% for the likes of horticulture, processed or raw agricultural products, non-limber wood products, handicrafts, and locally manufactured goods. Next slide. There's also locational incentives for agro-processing, and after a 5-year concessionary period, there's a 1% for 5 years from start of the operation. And for agro-processing enterprises which use agricultural raw materials as their main inputs, they have corporate tax rates fixed according to their location. So if you're to be located in Accra, Tema, there's a 20%, other regional capitals 15%, outside other regional capitals 10%, and then 5 regions in the northern zone is 5%. For investors going into construction and accommodation, there's a 1% CIT for low-cost residential property construction, and also 22% for those going into providing accommodation industries, such as hotels. Next slide. For banking and financial services, the tax is 20% for loans to farming enterprises and leasing companies. And then for savings and investment institutions, you have it there, 1% approved mutual funds and unit trusts. Investors in these funds have 1% final withholding tax on interest, dividends, and capital gains. And for venture capital trust fund, There's full tax exemption. VC finance companies are taxed at 1% CIT during concessionary period. Next slide. So we also have under the current GIPC Act, there's incentives for investors whose investment amounts are $50 million and above. And under the Section 15 of the Exemptions Act, specific incentive packages may be negotiated in addition to the available incentives and benefits under various legislations such as customs and taxation laws for an investment valued $50 million and above. Then there's custom duty exemptions on plant, machinery, and equipment under the Exemptions Act. Then for waste processing businesses, the income of a company from a waste processing business is taxed at 1% for the first 7 years from the start of operations and 25% thereafter. Next slide. There's also the incentives when you are going to be classified as a free zone enterprise. So 10-year tax holiday, post-tax holiday, and then dividends from exempt profits, no withholding tax. And there are some indirect tax exemptions as well. VAT reliefs and zero-rated supplies under VAT Act, ECOWAS imports fully exempt under the ETLS, customs duty exemptions for selected imports, and excise duty discounts for using local raw materials. Next slide. For the automotive development policy, corporate tax holidays, among other import duty and value-added tax exemptions, are granted to manufacturers or assemblies of semi-knockdown vehicles, 0% for 3 years, and complete knockdown vehicles, 0% for 10 years. Capital allowance in the form of accelerated depreciation is applicable in all sectors. Next slide. So I mentioned there were fiscal incentives and then non-fiscal incentives. These are the non-fiscal incentives. And for the non-fiscal incentives, as you see there, prohibition against discrimination, guarantee against direct expropriation, there's full transfer of capital profits, dividend, and personal remittances, and there's fair dispute resolution for investors guaranteed by a transparent judicial system. And going forward, if our law gets, and I won't use if, when, because we are very optimistic, when our law gets passed, there's going to be that backing for us to handle disputes by investors. Next slide, please. Next. So these are all covering the non-fiscal incentives. So back one slide back, please. So you see over there, there's expedited registration of technology transfer agreements. And at the GIPC, we have done a lot of work in the past year to speed up the registration of technology transfer agreements and to sensitize the investor community about the benefits of having this done the right way, making sure that whatever you bring in and you need to repatriate based on what you have registered as a technology, you do it through the right means, through the banking system. And we do a lot of work with the Bank of Ghana to make sure that this is very transparent and our investors are complying with that. Next slide. So these are other incentives when you come in to do business in Ghana and register with us. We have our research at the GIPC. We have our research and investments. We have our research team that will provide you information on specific sectors that you need information for. We also, I mentioned about the investor grievance mechanism. We have our aftercare team that would be handling that. And also, we have the Ghana International Trade Commission. We work with them closely on that and trade matters as well. Next slide. So a bit about who would be shepherding you from conception of your idea, deciding to do business in Ghana, right to the point where you actually are now considered as an investor in Ghana, and also we hand-holding you throughout the process and making sure that your investments, you retain them in Ghana and even expand and diversify. That's the GIPC. We are mandated by government and we are solution-oriented. Next slide. Some of our service offerings: providing investment advisory services, renewing the registered projects, providing the registration of TTAs, the technology transfer agreements, participating in investment facilitation and exhibitions, registration of new projects, processing of quota and exemption applications, providing joint venture facilitation. We encourage our Ghanaian businesses to partner foreign businesses to come into that kind of partnership, and we have other programs and initiatives supporting our Ghanaian businesses to make sure that they are able to partner with foreign entities as well. There's identification, compilation of specific projects for investment promotion. We have our monitoring team making sure that what you say you are coming to do, you are actually doing that, and if you need any kind of assistance, they are there to help you to do that. There's a sensitization program to create awareness, negotiation of BITs by our legal team, together with other state-mandated institutions like the AG's department, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and other state agencies to make sure that we enter into BITs with certain countries who are also interested. Then we recently put in place a system where a registration can be done within 24 hours. Next slide, please. So how to invest in Ghana? If you are thinking of investing in Ghana, you first of all need to incorporate your business with our Office of Registrar of Companies, ORC. Then you are able to come to the GIPC to satisfy minimum capital requirements. If you are looking to have coming to do a joint venture business that's partnering with a Ghanaian, the minimum capital requirement is $200,000. If you're coming in as a wholly foreign entity, it is $500,000. And if you're coming to do trading, it is $1 million. And this is about to change. And when we have the new law, the minimum requirement for joint ventureship and then for being a wholly foreign owned company will no more be required. But for trading, it's going to be reduced to, I think, about $500,000. So that should be some boost to our promotional tools and increasing investors to come in. Then you are able to now register with the GIPC and obtain your licenses as well from other sector agencies. So if you're, for instance, coming in to do banking or mining, you are required to have certain permits and licenses from them as well. Next slide, please. The support we provide. There's a aftercare and investor grievance division. They provide the aftercare. Once you come in and you're doing business, you're facing certain challenges, they are able to work with you in collaboration with other agencies to bring some resolution to whatever challenges that you are facing. And as we speak, last year, I think we had about 9 issues by our team being resolved. There's also the Diaspora Investment Desk. Now, these cater to our diaspora community, engaging them, supporting them with their interests in doing business in Ghana. There's also our business development team. They make sure that whatever mission that we engage in, the leads that we pick up, the prospective investors who are expressing interest to do business in Ghana, they handle them and follow through to make sure that they become actual investments. Then also our monitoring team I mentioned earlier, they go out there. If you're doing business here, they come on a regular visit to your place of work, projects, to chat with you, see what some of the challenges they are facing, and also being compliant with the laws of investment in Ghana. Next slide, please. We also recently created an after desk that is also helping us to channel some of our efforts in relation to what the objectives of the AFCFTA are in connection with supporting our businesses who are looking to go onto the African market. There's a TTA department handling the TTAs. Next slide, please. I mentioned that we recently instituted the service of registering within 24 hours. Our team is always on hand. Our registration team is always on hand to provide the necessary support. If you have questions, they guide you through the registration process. And once all documentation is intact, within 24 hours, your registration will be complete. Next slide, please. We also, last year, put together an initiative, the Investment Opportunity Mapping Project. So we have various opportunities across the country, various projects, government related ones and private sector ones, but we have not been able to map them across the region. So for instance, if we take the Volta region and somebody is looking to see what opportunities there are in the Volta region, we do not have that in place. So that is a project that we started. It was launched in August, I believe July. We've started putting together, we've worked with the regional coordinating councils within the various regional offices to put together, to bring together the opportunities within their regions and in their districts. That will eventually be found on a portal that we are working towards. And as part of that, last year, we started with a roadshow in the Volta and OT region, making sure that what we have started collating, we are able to verify them as well. And the team were in Central and Western region this month. It continues throughout the first half of the year, and we are hoping that this would also culminate in and support our upcoming Ghana International Investment Summit to be held here in Accra in August this year. So that, in a nutshell, is to help us have a good view of what opportunities are available. If an investor is looking to go to the northern region, they are able to say, okay, what opportunities do you have here? Then they see that and decide and start the journey of actually investing in Ghana. Next slide, please. So we don't work alone. We work with other government institutions, and some of them, we have the Office of the Registrar of Companies. We work with the Free Zones Authority closely. We work with the EPA, the Petroleum Commission, the Minerals Commission, the Central Bank, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, the Ghana Standards Authority, the AGI, I believe some of them are here, Energy Commission, the Immigration, when you're looking to come in with your experts based on what kind of investments you are coming to do, and you think that you are not able to find a skill set here, you would want to bring in some specialized team to come and do that. We work with the Immigration Service to support you in that endeavor. We work with the Chamber of Commerce as well, and the Chamber of Mines, and the various diplomatic missions, their trade attaches, we work closely with them as well. Next slide, please. So, thank you all for listening, and that brings me to the end of my presentation. And as I mentioned earlier, we are looking forward to having all of you here back in Accra in August for the Ghana International Investment Summit. Thank you very much.
Free to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for our dear colleague from GIPC. And the loudest voice that has come into the room is my only brother, my good brother, His Excellency Kwesi Che Dakwa. Oh, by the way, he is the Ghana Special Envoy to the Caribbean. So, Excellency, I hope you're well. And you've come at a good time because we have our last panel, which will be today's most exciting panel. Do you believe that? Oh, I don't think you do. This panel is on infrastructure, ports, and trade connectivity with a theme: the Continental backbone, ports, power, rail, and corridors for Africa's industrial era. The purpose of this session is to reframe Africa's infrastructure conversation from gaps and deficits to industrial capability and opportunity. On the panel, please allow me to bring on the stage the Executive Chair, African Trade Chamber, Benedicta Lasi, Esquire. We also have the Chief of the Regional Integration Session at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, Dr. Francis Ikome. We are also joined by Chief Executive Officer, Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPSS, Mike Ogbalu III. And I've reserved our last four, our greatest on the stage, who will be the person of the former Prime Minister, Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, His Excellency Pascal Affi. Ladies and gentlemen, the conversation will proceed for the next 35 minutes, and I will do well to give us about 10-15 minutes for question and answer from the audience. Or 5? All right. I would like to start off with you, Benedicta, because, you know, by default, you're sitting next to me, and it is because of you that we're all here. But looking at the topic of discussion today, describe to us, in your mind, how can Africa align its port, rail, and power strategies to support value-added industrialization instead of raw commodity exports?
Thank you very much, Anita, and thanks for having me on the panel. I think that the conversation around infrastructure and it being the backbone of industrialization on the continent is one that is often had within the context of infrastructure projects. And so we talk about ports being developed by one country. We look at railway infrastructure being advanced by another country. But as we have heard this morning, and as the continent is beginning to reimagine the conversation around building our industrial capabilities, I think the conversation we have to start having is how we begin to have infrastructure development as an industrial strategy rather than as projects. And so we've begun to see trade corridors being developed. We've also seen some infrastructure developments going on within some of the sub-regions, and so you would have ECOWAS advancing conversations on Lagos-Abidjan corridor. You have the Lobito corridor. You have the Simandu. All of these conversations is to drive home the point of trade corridors as facilitating systems to advance this agenda. And one of the things that I'm happy we have Mike on the panel, which we don't talk about often, is the infrastructure that we don't often see as being built. And so you have the payments and settlements. This morning, someone was alluding to the fact that we used to travel to Europe from Africa to be able to access other regions on the continent. We still do that in payments. And so when you're transferring monies from Ghana to Kenya, if we do not have a system like the PAPSS, what we would be doing would be to see funds being routed from Ghana to Europe and then to Kenya. What PAPSS seeks to do is to create that enabling environment, that infrastructure, financial infrastructure, to advance payments on the continent. When we talk about trade, connectivity, and we are looking at infrastructure, these are the elements that we need to look at. But beyond looking at them as elements, we have to begin looking at them as systems. And how do we ensure that these systems are connected and the planning, the financing, the project development around these projects are not had in silos. When Afri-Exim Bank is looking at a project, for instance, they would say, is the project bankable? But if the port is in Takoradi, for instance, in Ghana, and you have a bauxite site in Yinahini, and they are looking at the port project, a port expansion project, and they want to finance that, but the rail infrastructure project has been stalled. Now, Afri-Exim Bank would say, okay, who are the people going to use this port? Do we have throughput? Do we have the off-takers and the users of the port? If we cannot say yes to that, Afri-Exim Bank would say, well, we have to look at this again. But once we begin to look at the infrastructure development as a corridor development project, and we begin to take projects like the bauxite development projects or industrial zones being connected to other infrastructure required to advance industrialization, then you begin to see financial institutions viewing that project as bankable, because now they can say there is some offtake, there is throughput, and they can justify the advancement of finance to that project. And so I think by way of preliminary comments, we have to just begin to see our governments and project promoters, whether in the private sector or institutions like Africa 50 that invest in some of these infrastructure projects, we have to begin seeing them thinking within the corridor development agenda rather than individual projects. Thank you.
So valuable what you said, Benedicta, and I'm just going to skip and go straight to the concept of payments, because it's what we don't see. Mike, I come to you, PAPSS 101, assuming 3 people in this room don't know what PAPSS is. Can you please describe, in the most simple terms, what PAPSS is and the value of PAPSS to Africa's industrialization? And of course, you can share the status of PAPSS as well.
Thank you very much, and big congratulations to my sister, Benedicta. It's been a very successful inaugural event. The whole idea of economic prosperity is tied around the concept of trade. The more you trade, the more prosperous you are. To trade, you have to be able to produce goods and services, and that takes you to industrialization. But at the end of it all, you need to be able to pay. Now, trade does not take place without payment. So at the end of all of the production and creating the single market and everything, you need to be able to pay in exchange for goods and services. Now, the payment system that has been available to Africa has not been fit for purpose. You had a system where 80% of Africa's commercial payments, first of all, travel halfway around the world to New York before coming back. So I'm paying someone from Lagos here in Accra, and it's just 50 minutes flight, but my payment takes 3 to 4 or 5 days to arrive here. So clearly the payment system was not fit for purpose. It was very highly dependent on third-party global currencies. It was expensive. So we decided that if Africa must be able to drive its trade, then we have to deal with that trigger for trade. And the more we make it efficient, the more we're able to accelerate trade. So PAPSS is a financial market infrastructure connecting all African countries. Today we have 20, but the intention is to connect all. That will allow them to be able to originate payments in their local currencies, and those payments will terminate at the destination in the local currencies. PAPSS is built to the best of global standards, and we have certified it to global certifications as well. Now we have connected central banks, we've connected commercial banks, now we're connecting fintechs and switches. The whole aim is that we are going to bring together all of the payment ecosystems across Africa such that you can make a payment originate from one part of Africa and terminate in the other part in no more than 120 seconds. So that is what PAPSS is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Mike, before you go ahead and tell us what the progress, how many of you knew what PAPSS was before Mr. Ogbalu? How many of you did not know what PAPSS was? Oh, fantastic. Okay, I'm happy that you don't know. Mike, is PAPSS a card? Is it an account? Is it an online platform? If anybody in this room here wants to take advantage of this extraordinary PAPSS, how would they do it?
Okay, and thanks for coming back to me again, because I didn't answer the B part of your question. PAPSS is a financial market infrastructure, is a rail. It's not designed to compete with local payment systems. It's designed to complement them. Okay, so we more or less make ourselves available for other payment companies, banks, and other institutions to be able to connect to us. So for example, your bank is able to plug into PAPSS. There are still some gaps in terms of our rollout, but we are live in about 20 countries. We are connected to about 15 switches across Africa. We are connected to 165 commercial banks, and these are 165 of the biggest commercial banks in Africa.
That's fine. Oh, I'm back. Thank you so much, Mike. I will come back to you. Dr. Ikome, it sounds so exciting, doesn't it? PAPSS sounds like we are ready to take our own economic sovereignty to our own hands. My dear sister Benedicta has outlined the importance of infrastructure when it comes to industrialization. Thank you. When it comes to industrialization. Now, I give you the tough question. Which regional institutions, whether they are RECs, corridor authorities, power pools, should lead integration efforts? And what powers or mandates must be strengthened?
Thanks very much, Madam Moderator. And let me recognize all the panelists. Like you rightly pointed out, it's a tough question, but an interesting one nonetheless. The one reality we have on the continent is this dense body of institutions. Madam Moderator, I was just saying the one reality we have on the continent is the dense body of institutions and frameworks governing and trying to enable integration. Each of these institutions, be it the regional economic communities, that's at the sub-regional level, or the African Union at the continental level, or some specialized entities like the power pools and all the others that you referenced, they are established, they have their mandates, specific mandates. But unfortunately, we have a challenge of duplication sometimes, and even overlapping mandates. And that has pushed the leaders of the continent from time to time to try to rationalize and establish cooperative relationships across and amongst these institutions. Several years back, I think by the late 2000s, there was a deliberate effort, for instance, to rationalize the number of RECs and to put a limit, a moratorium for the establishment of RECs because they were becoming too unwieldy and too many. So that was done, and it is now a framework that helps the integration body. It's a tough one to speak about which of these institutions should lead the integration processes. I think it's more appropriate to talk about how their mandates are defined and how they would implement this mandate, but more importantly, the level of collaboration and cooperation that needs to exist amongst these three levels. First and foremost, you're talking the continental level, the African Union, you have the RECs level, but critically, we must understand that at the end of the day, whether the continent integrates or not depends on member states, because implementation lies at that level. We can adopt all the wonderful instruments at the continental or sub-regional level. If member states do not implement, we will not go anywhere.
If member states don't implement, we will not go anywhere. And perhaps that's where I bring it to you, Your Excellency, former Prime Minister of the Republic of la Côte d'Ivoire. What does a truly connected African industrial era look like?
Allô? Vos casques. Parce que je vais m'exprimer en français.
Oui, absolument, absolument, Son Excellence.
Oui, je voudrais vous dire merci, mais je crois que la question fondamentale aujourd'hui en ce qui concerne la connectivité des économies africaines, c'est la question du déficit d'infrastructures, des infrastructures de transport. Par exemple, les ports. En Afrique, nous n'avons pas suffisamment de ports. Ceux qui existent n'ont pas des capacités suffisantes pour accueillir des navires. Ils n'ont pas les capacités de remorquage, de transbordement. Ensuite, l'Afrique ne participe pas suffisamment au commerce international parce qu'il n'y a pas une marine marchande africaine suffisante. Nous avons seulement des pavillons étrangers et nous comptons à peu près pour 5 à 7% dans le commerce mondial. Et donc, la question des investissements pour que nous ayons des ports importants qui peuvent nous permettre d'évacuer, de nous insérer dans le commerce international, c'est une question essentielle. La question de la flotte, pour que nous ayons une flotte africaine, afin que nous ne soyons pas dépendants des flottes internationales, des pavillons internationaux, c'est aussi une question importante. En dehors des ports, lorsque vous regardez aussi le secteur de l'électricité, on ne peut pas industrialiser sans un potentiel électrique suffisant. Or, l'Afrique n'a pas suffisamment investi dans les capacités de production d'électricité. En Afrique, nous consommons à peu près 200 kWh d'électricité par habitant, alors que ce chiffre est de 10 000 aux États-Unis et de 7 000 en Europe. Cela signifie que, alors que nous avons un potentiel important du point de vue de l'hydroélectricité, du point de vue du solaire, nous avons un potentiel important qui n'est pas exploité. Ensuite, les réseaux ne sont pas interconnectés. Donc, nous n'avons pas un écosystème électrique qui puisse permettre d'envoyer de l'électricité depuis le Sénégal jusqu'au Kenya, jusqu'au Cameroun, etc., etc. Or, nous ne pouvons pas interconnecter nos économies s'il n'y a pas d'électricité en abondance et pouvant être distribuée partout. Ensuite, l'électricité est à 90% fossile, alors que nous sommes dans un contexte d'économie verte. Ça veut dire qu'il faut investir beaucoup dans le solaire, dans le nucléaire, dans l'hydroélectricité, etc. Lorsqu'on regarde les chemins de fer, l'Afrique n'a pas... Le chemin de fer est un secteur qui a été totalement abandonné par l'Afrique. Il n'y a aucun réseau pratiquement en Afrique de chemin de fer. Par exemple, en Côte d'Ivoire, il y a un chemin de fer qui date de 1905. 1905, c'est-à-dire au temps colonial. Et ce chemin de fer n'a pas été changé, alors que c'est le mode de transport qui permet d'évacuer des grandes quantités de marchandises à des coûts unitaires bas et qui sont écologiques. Donc nous ne pouvons pas faire une industrialisation de masse si nous ne développons pas les réseaux de chemin de fer. Ici au Ghana, j'ai noté qu'il y a une initiative d'intégration du chemin de fer dans la modernisation du transport avec l'ouverture de certaines lignes jusqu'au Burkina. C'est déjà une bonne chose. Mais le vrai problème aussi du transport, c'est que la mise en place de ces corridors, par exemple de Tema au Ghana, d'Abidjan au Burkina, de Conakry à Simandou, le transgabonais, tout cela se fait de façon disparate. Il n'y a pas une harmonisation, il n'y a pas une interconnexion. Et ensuite, ces réseaux sont plus des réseaux de transport et non des corridors de développement. Parce qu'un corridor de développement, c'est une infrastructure, ce n'est pas un tunnel pour aller chercher des marchandises dans un point A pour l'envoyer à un point B. C'est une infrastructure qui doit produire le développement. C'est-à-dire qu'au point A de départ, cette infrastructure permet de développer une économie locale, d'industrialisation. Sur le parcours, ce corridor doit permettre de développer les villes intermédiaires. Or, souvent, nos infrastructures ne sont pas pensées dans cette philosophie. Et ce qui fait qu'il y a donc deux problèmes à régler. Un problème au niveau de l'ensemble de l'Afrique et des régions africaines de schéma directeur, de grande orientation sur la manière de construire les réseaux, et puis un problème au niveau national sur l'intégration des corridors dans une politique d'industrialisation du pays. Donc voilà un certain nombre de problèmes qui se posent et qui exigent que le financement des infrastructures occupe une place de choix dans la mobilisation des capitaux transformationnels.
Merci beaucoup, Son Excellence. Benedicta, His Excellency has highlighted two things that are crucial. Our networks, we don't have the capacity across our transportation networks across the continent. And of course, he mentions power. When I bring it to you, I would like to know your thoughts on why so many infrastructure and corridor projects struggle to reach financial close, and what must change in the project preparation ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Anita. I think to answer this question, I would cite an example. So the Grand Inga Dam, I don't know if how many of you know about the Grand Inga Dam? Yes, so Africa, as is blessed with the natural resource of the world, I think we are the most blessed. We have the largest hydro capacity in the world. And this is on the Congo River in the DRC. And it's called the Inga Dam. Now, this project has been conceived for several years now. I think before some of us were born, the Inga project was conceived, and there has been a lot of commitments, political commitments towards that. It is believed that once the Grand Inga Dam is completed, it has the potential of powering over 70% of Africa. So what it means is that as a singular project, if Africa, from political leaders to financial institutions to private sector, if we can all put our focus and work towards the development and completion of the Grand Inga Dam in the DRC, we would solve a significant aspect of our power needs on the continent. But the question is, how come we have not been able to achieve this development, or we've not been able to get the hydropower dam or project completed? It comes back to your question on why we've not been able to reach financial close. Yes, the Inga Dam is situated in the DRC, but if you look at the Inga Dam, it cannot be conceived as a national project of the DRC. It must be conceived as a regional power project. In fact, not just regional for Central Africa or SADC, but regional for the rest of the continent, the entire continent. But to the extent that we require the DRC to be the institution or to be the country to engage and provide the necessary assurances or commitments and guarantees to financing partners, I think we should forget that that project would see the light of day in our generation or our lifetime. And until we begin to see the regional economic communities, the AU, they are, first of all, let me come back. They are regional economic communities. And so the economic agenda was the reason why the RECs were set up. So ECOWAS was set up for the economics and not necessarily the politics. So the politics came after. We said we had to create a common community to promote our economic development. But it seems now the focus is very much on the politics. And so I mentioned the regional economic communities, and I mentioned the AU, and I mentioned development finance institutions as the key stakeholders to unlocking the infrastructure deficit. And I'm very passionate about the Grand Inga Dam. The Chamber has been working with the authority, trying to even support them in getting partners, whether it's national institutions like the VRA in Ghana, or other partners that can go in and also lend their technical support to them. But we must see the DFIs committing significantly to this. We must also begin to see governments prioritizing infrastructure development beyond their own national outlooks. Because if DRC is to look at the Grand Inga Dam as a national project, they cannot consume the power that the dam would produce. And so if you produce in excess, you have no need for it. And so it's not commercially viable for the country. We have to begin seeing countries collaborating and working with other countries, including the continental institutions, to set up a framework that allows or that helps us advance these projects without them sitting on the balance sheets of individual countries. Because if we are talking about corridors, you cannot conceive a corridor on the budget of one country. DRC can't shoulder that risk by itself. And so I think that one of the key things we are hoping that the DFIs and the multilateral development banks would begin to advance is a political conversation with our leaders on financing of some of these projects. Because as a continent, we have 54 governments with their own national budgets, their own national priorities. But until we are able to begin to conceive these ideas or these infrastructure projects as corridors and have DFIs engage governments, as we have seen with Lagos-Abidjan corridor, where Nigeria is taking care of its portion, Benin is doing the same, Togo, Ghana has the largest line coming through Ghana into Abidjan. We must also begin to see such frameworks being developed on some of the key infrastructure developments that we require, for instance, on INGA. Off-taker agreements for power generated by INGA, I don't think we have a challenge with that. South Africa committed made a 10-year commitment to off-take power from the DRC, from the INGA Dam, and they signed that. But beyond that off-taker agreement, the question is, are we asking DRC to shoulder the risks, the entire risks for the development of the Grand INGA Dam? If we are able to answer that question, to say, yes, it's a national project, and so DRC should shoulder it, and we've seen that it's not worked for the past couple of years. But if we're able to say that this is a regional project, and so the financing requirement and the structuring of this financing must go beyond what DRC as a country can commit or can shoulder, then we would begin to see banks like AFDB, Afri-Exim, IFC, or the World Bank, who is already engaging on the project, we would be able to see that concerted effort to really drive the infrastructure development. And so my point would be that, yes, as countries, we must see our industries being linked to the infrastructure development agenda of our countries. But beyond the countries, these infrastructure projects must be looked at within the sub-region, within the regional economic community or the corridors, as we've seen. We heard the GIPC lady speak about the Volta River corridor and the fact that Ghana is looking at a trade corridor from the ports all the way to the Sahelian regions. That corridor is not just about rail. It would be a multimodal transport system, and it's not just to transport. You would have your telecommunications. It's a whole development project that must be looked at across multiple sectors. And so we must begin to think innovatively about our infrastructure development. And most importantly, we must begin to see DFIs, and I'm happy they are here, we must see DFIs shoulder a bit more of the risks and hold hands of countries and regional economic communities to be able to carry on some of these very ambitious projects that are not ambitious on paper, but that is what we need to ensure that the conversation on industrialization materializes.
Well, Benedicta, since you've spoken about DFIs, and I saw Dr. Ikome just smiling to himself, Dr. Ikome, then I come to you. How do we ensure that countries coordinate and not compete when it comes to developing ports, rails, corridors, etc.? That they don't compete, but they collaborate, they coordinate.
Thanks very much. I don't know why the moderator decided to ask me very difficult questions. But let me preface my intervention by making an observation regarding what my sister just presented, especially with regards to the INGA Dam. And permit me to say the INGA Dam, or the inertia or inability to move forward on the development of the INGA Dam, is both a paradox and I can even dare say a mystery. Because the economics of that dam and the potential transformative role has been established. Feasibility studies have been carried out severally. I recall the late Odinga, the former PM of Kenya, may so rest in peace, when he was the champion of the infrastructure agenda at the African Union, that is one project he trumpeted so much across the continent and globally. And there have been instances where we are almost been at the verge of celebrating that it is happening, but it has not happened. I'm a bureaucrat, so there are certain things I will not say. But suffices to say, there are strong political economic factors that are behind the stalling of the development of the Inga Dam. And until those factors are resolved, we may end up just continuing to be dreamers. And back to the question you asked about countries not competing but collaborating. Again, Inga Dam is a classic example of a project that should spontaneously spur collaboration across the continent. But there are so many factors, again, that undermine that. But until Africa, both the institutions and countries learn that there is need to collaborate for development to occur across the continent, we would really just continue to celebrate on that development. There are many projects that are just products of national pride, and I dare say vacuous national pride. You know, economically, some projects simply do not make sense, and they are neither viable nor competitive, but you carry them along, you carry them out nonetheless. So we have quite a number of white elephant projects across the continent that we need to rethink. The issue of ports and so on, you see the proximity between some African ports, when you put the ports, number of ports with the kinds of products we have to export or import, again, there's no economic sense, but we do it. I think one consideration, especially with seaports, that we may need to contemplate is to look at how we can implement the corridor principle in our ports too, so that we see how countries can collaborate. That is not to say there's no collaboration, but it is there are too few of such cases, and they are too far apart. So there is need for collaboration. There is need for sensitization to make countries understand that working together would produce win-win arrangements rather than having institutions or ports or whatever corridors that do not sustain themselves. And so we could take debts to construct ports. We are paying the debts when we receive no dividends. So there's need for sensitization and for African countries to know that indeed our strength would rely or depend on integration. And I just hope that the global dynamics we are seeing now, where the development assistance is drying up, it would serve as a wake-up call for Africa to know they need to pull together, and pulling together, including in the area of developing infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mike, the reality is development, integration, and all these powerful and extraordinary things we're talking about are nothing without figuring out how we will pay ourselves. I'll put you on the spot. How do we fast track the progress of PAPSS?
And this also flows from your last question. How do we ensure that countries are able to collaborate and not compete? Well, competition is good, but competition is good, but collaboration is a much stronger one. Now, just looking at all the different regions, what you find is that, you know, the Asians, they've had their own time. North America has had its own time. Europe has had its own time. I believe strongly this is a time for Africa. But the only way for us to get at it is actually to go together. And speaking of that, for a payment system is as powerful as the network that it connects. Today, it took us 4 years. We launched PAPSS 4 years ago, exactly this month, in this same room. Yeah. And it's taken us 4 years to get 20 countries to understand why it is important for us to connect our payment systems. Now, if you look at a small country like Seychelles, the last time I was there, I was discussing with a small tech company. And then I asked the tech company, I said, who is your target market? And he says 150,000 people. And I said to them that the problem you are solving for these 150,000 people exists across Africa. How can we provide you the rails that will allow you to be able to target 1.4 billion people? Because if you look at the 1.4 billion in China, in India, and the 1.4 billion in Africa, the only difference is that this is balkanized. We had 54 different rules of trade, and that's why the AfCFTA is a silver bullet. Now, speaking about what we need today, it's like a telephone network. The more people get on a network, the more they create value for themselves and for others who are also on the network. So our first ask is that we want all 54 plus countries on the PAPSS infrastructure. We want all commercial banks connected. And we want to do it in a way that sustains the value proposition of each person, okay? And so we want PAPSS to be that place where all countries in Africa see the need for them to be able to cooperate. If we are able to have an integrated payment system, then we can begin to dictate the terms of how Africa continues to develop and to prosper. But if you have to continue to depend on a payment system that is not within your control, whoever your payment system touches can decide to turn off the tap. And we have said, if people must make a decision to say an African country cannot transact or cannot trade, we want that decision to be made on the African continent, not anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm going to come to the floor for 3 questions. Please state the question and not your life history before the question. I'll come to you, but I want to ask Son Excellence, dans 12 mois, quels 3 résultats prouveront que l'Afrique a réellement progressé en ce qui concerne la connectivité et l'industrialisation? Oui, Son Excellence. Dans 12 mois.
Oui, merci. Mais évidemment, l'Afrique progresse. Dans tous les domaines, l'Afrique progresse. Le seul problème, c'est que les progrès ne sont pas plus importants que les défis à relever. Donc nous avons toujours un retard par rapport à nos besoins. C'est cela le vrai problème de l'Afrique. Comment accélérer les progrès de manière à ce que nous prenions de l'avance. Je prends par exemple le cas de l'école. Si nous construisons 10 salles de classe, alors qu'on a des enfants, qui ont besoin de 15 salles de classe. Donc nous avons fait des progrès de 10 salles, mais il y a toujours un déficit de 5 salles. Et le déficit peut se creuser dans le temps si nous n'accélérons pas la cadence de construction des salles de classe. Voilà. Donc le vrai défi de l'Afrique, c'est comment, surtout compte tenu de l'évolution démographique qui est souvent forte, comment mobiliser des ressources suffisantes, comment construire une économie dynamique pour produire de la richesse, des ressources publiques, pour pouvoir aller très vite en matière d'école, de santé, d'emploi, d'infrastructures routières, etc., etc. Donc l'Afrique avance, mais il faut qu'elle avance peut-être 2 ou 3 fois plus vite, de manière à ce qu'elle améliore les conditions de vie des populations, qu'elle crée des emplois pour les jeunes, voilà, et qu'il n'y ait pas de chômage. Voilà. Donc, que ce soit dans le domaine des ports, par exemple, les ports, on a fait des gros progrès, mais les progrès ne sont pas à la hauteur de nos ambitions. En matière d'intégration, c'est la même chose. Il y a des progrès qui sont faits, mais il faut aller plus vite. Et cela pose aussi le problème de la gouvernance. Parce que tout à l'heure, vous avez posé la question, pourquoi on a souvent des difficultés, qu'on a le sentiment qu'on tâtonne. Mais la question se trouve dans la gouvernance. Donc, dans la définition des stratégies de développement. Donc, dans la connaissance des problèmes auxquels le pays est confronté et dans l'identification des solutions pertinentes, intelligentes. Parce que tout se situe à ce niveau. Si nous regardons, par exemple, la Chine, pourquoi la Chine a atteint ce niveau de développement et que dans certains domaines même, elle a dépassé les États-Unis? Tout se trouve dans la stratégie. La stratégie et tout se trouve dans la connaissance, dans l'expertise, dans les compétences des ressources humaines, dans les compétences du leadership. Voilà. Parce qu'il ne suffit pas de dire, bon, je vais être président de la République. Mais vous êtes président de la République et vous n'avez aucune connaissance des réalités du pays. Vous n'avez aucune compétence pour identifier là où il faut agir. Comment combiner les moyens du pays pour produire des résultats positifs. Donc vous allez tâtonner. Vous allez embarquer le pays dans des voies sans issue. Donc voilà un certain nombre de choses. Et souvent, nous n'accordons pas suffisamment d'importance à la capacité même des leaders. Voilà. À la capacité des leaders à définir une stratégie d'industrialisation, une stratégie de développement des infrastructures, une stratégie de promotion de l'emploi des jeunes. Et donc voilà, et c'est ce qui fait la différence entre les pays. Vous allez voir des pays qui avancent vite parce qu'il y a un leadership éclairé, compétent, une bonne expertise, une bonne utilisation des ressources humaines, une bonne gestion de l'environnement politique, économique, social, des opérateurs économiques, les motivations, les incitations, qui sait faire travailler les gens. Et puis d'un autre côté, un dirigeant qui peut-être a accaparé tout le pouvoir, qui décide de tout, alors qu'il n'a pas les compétences pour le faire. Donc voilà aussi, ces questions-là, parfois, nous ne les abordons pas suffisamment. Parce que nous pensons que ce sont des évidences, que ce sont des questions réglées d'avance, alors que souvent c'est à ce niveau que se situe le problème.
Merci beaucoup, Son Excellence. So I will take... There's no waiting. So, just one moment. I just want you to know, if I don't pick you, it's not me, it's her. She did it. No, but on a more serious note, we have a few roundtables tomorrow. So don't worry too much about your questions not being answered. My dear brother gave me a booklet with the roundtables. I'll read it out to you tomorrow. So please, if I can't pick everybody, do forgive me. But you, sir, I saw your hand up first. You look like somebody that I have to pick. You two, I saw... The lady, did you have your hand up? No? The lady in the red? No? Sorry. Gentleman in the white. I'm going to pick one from each column. Is there anybody in Jerry, is there anybody in your column? Is there anybody in your column? Okay, so yes, the lady all the way at the back. So can I have a microphone, please? We're starting off with this column. So if you ask your questions very quickly, we can also add a number of people. So ask your questions very quickly. Panelists will answer them very quickly. And over the next 6 to 10 minutes, we are wrapped up. We're done. Yes. Yes, sir. And to whom the question is being asked, please.
Good afternoon to all. I know you said no history, but just a quick for the reason of my question. My name is Desider Fernandez. I represent the Pan-Africa freight industry. Now I go directly to my questions. 3. Let's start with Mike. You are targeting industries, commercial industries. What is holding you back instead of looking at the macro? Look at the micro. The biggest trade in Africa business is the SMEs, MMEs with mobile money. Why can't you use PAPSS and have collaborative agreement between the mobile money operators in various countries, and that is a slow-hanging fruit which will give you an immediate win, and that will make PAPSS a success in Africa.
Thank you. To Mike.
Hold on, I said 3.
No, you can only ask one question, my brother, if I want to be fair to the others. Thank you so much. Mike, answer your question Microphone to the next person, please, at the back. The gentleman at the back. There are two. One. Mike, please go ahead.
Okay. So I think the essence of what your question is that we, in order to target the SMEs, that we should bring together all of the mobile money ecosystems. I hope that's, so you are right. We built our payment system as building blocks. So we first of all started with getting the central banks to agree to a set of bylaws that will actually guide the payment system. We created the oversighting infrastructure and the organs, and then we connected to central banks, we connected to commercial banks. Now we're connecting also to mobile money operators. Today we have connected to a few aggregating entities like OnAfric. OnAfric already had a number of mobile money wallets already connected. We are also connecting directly to a number of mobile money institutions. So you are right. This is one area that creates a significant multiplier. So indeed, we are going in that direction. Today, for example, just to give an example, you can actually move from mobile money to mobile money from, for example, from Nigeria to Ghana. And you can do from Ghana to Kenya. You can credit, for example, an M-Pesa wallet today. So we're actually building in that direction, but it's a tricky thing to build in a way that does not destroy the value proposition of all the participants that connect to our network. But we're actually doing that.
Thank you very much. Next question, sir.
Okay, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Israel Lambert. I'm from Congo, Kinshasa. So, je voudrais poser la question directement en français. On a parlé de INGA. Je suis intéressé par le projet INGA. La Banque africaine de développement a investi ces 10 dernières années plus de 1,7 milliard de dollars pour le financement de projets en République démocratique du Congo, dont 16% pour l'énergie. Ils ont tout fait. Et j'ai aimé les panélistes, ils ont dit, des fois, c'est le problème interne, c'est le problème de leadership. Pour aller directement à la question, je voudrais demander, est-ce qu'il n'y a pas moyen de faire de pression pour un projet qui est régional, pour un projet qui est continental? Est-ce qu'il n'y a pas de moyen de faire de pression sur le leader du pays pour nous aider à avancer dans ce domaine de l'électricité qui est capital? Aujourd'hui, nous avons 21% de la population qui a accès à l'électricité au pays. La Banque africaine de développement travaille pour que nous atteignions 62% d'ici 2030. Mais est-ce qu'il n'y a pas d'autres moyens de pression pour nous aider? Parce que l'électricité, quand il n'y en a pas, quand l'électricité s'éteint, tout s'éteint pour le développement du pays.
Merci. Benedicta. Microphone should go to the next column, please.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. We need governments to commit. We need the right leadership and the political will to get this going. Yes, AFDB has put in some resources, but I think that what we must begin to see is that as the AU gathers in Addis Ababa next month, in a couple of days, if there are commitments that we are hoping to hear from the AU, is that there's probably a task force set up of heads of states to come up with a plan on how we get INGA across the line. Those are some of the political commitments that would ensure that we can galvanize the stakeholders that are required to ensure the development of that project. And so, yes, political will and leadership is important, but we also need to get our financial minds to be very innovative around the structuring of the projects for financing, for it to be bankable and feasible commercially.
Thank you. Next question, please. We have 6 minutes, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you. So my name is Nguendi, and I'm a data researcher. So regarding to PAPSS, as he was talking, he made something very obvious and evident for us as from the previous Swift messaging system, which was what we were familiar with, banking hours taking days. And now I found out and realized that JP Morgan is using something called JP Coin, which is fundamentally built on a technology that we know to be distributed ledger technology. Some call it blockchain, that's in the crypto space, but that isn't my focus. My focus is more on the underlying technology that they are using. It's almost nearly instantaneous. You can send money within the speed of light. And now they have begun to onboarding high-end institutions like MasterCard, and Jamie Dimon is also going on trips in Africa trying to onboard Commercial Bank of Africa, trying to get them early on this technology. So now my question is, how are we positioning ourselves as we are more focused? Because from what you said about PAPSS, if we are now being the main guy here, you are now our centralized entity, you also have a form of messaging system that you are using. So when are we going to be seeing us using distributed ledger technology? And also in terms of supply chain management, this technology is going to be able to capture a lot of value, and it is immutable for next generations to come to know what has happened and transpired. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mike, over to you.
So that's a fantastic question. Aside from our core infrastructure, we have built other solutions that today are built on the distributed ledger technology. What we call our currency, Africa Currency Marketplace, is built on blockchains. We are already future-proofing our system such that we are able to actually integrate to traditional systems and integrate to blockchain-driven infrastructures. Now, we are going ahead to actually start looking at sort of digital settlement units, which hopefully over time will help us to actually even further reduce our dependence on any third-party currencies. But we are working with central banks. We deliberately decided that this would be a central bank-led payment system. So to that extent, only the things that we have, our College of Regulators agree we should do, those are the things that we do. But we are already building solutions and systems using distributed ledger technology.
Thank you, Mike. Microphone to there's a lady at the back.
Hi, my question is very brief, and it's on PAPSS as well.
Oh, wow, Mike.
We understand that PAPSS is live in theory, but I want to understand what really the barriers are and what the incentives are to encourage more commercial banks, more fintechs to really adopt it so we can actually see this thing work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I ask, are you Ghanaian?
I'm Ghanaian.
Which bank do you bank with?
Stanbic.
Is there money in it?
Yes.
Sorry? Okay.
Stanbic Bank.
And I would like for you to actually walk into your bank tomorrow and ask them about PAPSS. And I would like to get a feedback from you. But just to answer your question, we are actually now simplifying our technology in a way that makes it easy for people to be able to connect. We've developed our new sandbox and our developers environment. We are going to make all of our APIs available so that people can actually play around with the system. That will encourage more people to actually be able to connect into us. We have worked with the central banks because for everyone that connects into PAPSS, he still requires to get a letter of no objection from his central bank. So we're working with central banks to simplify that process. But then we have our APIs that are available, and we are now encouraging people to create solutions that will leverage PAPSS. So today we have a number of institutions that are creating solutions around escrow services, around remittances. We have global remittance partners who today we are able to give them a single API that speaks to the entire continent. And we're also expanding our connectivities beyond Africa. So it's a journey. We are not where we want to be, and this is very good feedback. But then we are simplifying our processes and making it much, much, much easier. And if you're a fintech or a bank or anyone in the room and you'd like to have a conversation, we're available to have that conversation to fast-track your integration into PAPSS.
Thank you so much, Mike. This brings us to the end of our panel. I know there are lots of questions and contributions. I promise you tomorrow will be the day for that. Please give a round of applause to my panelists. Former Prime Minister, Republic of la Côte d'Ivoire, His Excellency Pascal Affi. We've also had the Chief Executive Officer, Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, Mike Ogbalu III. You can clap, please. Executive Chair, African Trade Chamber, Benedicta Lasi Esquire has joined us. And last, definitely not the least, the one who got the most difficult questions but answered them with expertise, the Chief of the Regional Integration Section, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Dr. Francis Ikome. Thank you very much, panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, as we take a photo, kindly take your name tags and scan the barcode at the back. The barcode will give you access or give you an overview of all our roundtables tomorrow. Thank you very much. And now, the last activity for the day. Take out your phones. Everybody take out your phones. Everybody take out your phones. Thank you so much, Benedicta. Everybody take out your phones. Everybody has a phone. If you don't have a phone, no problem. Look for somebody behind you, not next to you because it's probably a friend of yours, somebody behind you and take a selfie with them. I'm giving you 5 seconds to do that. Look for somebody behind you. Don't do it with the person next to you because they are your friend. Look for somebody behind you and take a selfie with them. And when you post on LinkedIn tonight, don't forget to tag at Africa Trade Summit 2026. And please don't forget to say, look, I made a new friend. My name is Anita Erskine. God willing, I see you tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Please don't forget to scan the barcode behind your name tag. That will show you the roundtable sessions that we have. Please go home safe and sound. Don't forget, the importance of today's gathering is to learn, to share, to collaborate, but most importantly, to act. Have a good night.
Every generation reaches a point when it must decide to be shaped by the world or to shape it. Africa has reached that point. We are not waiting for opportunity. We are building it through production, through investment, through trade. From Africa's industrial corridors to the ports of Durban, from Lagos to Nairobi, Addis Ababa to Abidjan, a continental economy is taking form. The age of extraction is ending. Africa is processing what it produces. Africa is manufacturing what it consumes. We are defining our value on our own terms. Across 1.4 billion people, one market is uniting our industries. One framework is opening our borders. One vision is guiding our growth. The African Continental Free Trade Area is no longer a proposal. It is the operating system of Africa's economic future. But progress does not build itself. It requires discipline, partnership, and direction. Out of that resolve comes a new platform where enterprise meets policy and strategy becomes structure. The Africa Trade Summit 2026 from the 28th to the 29th of January at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, Accra, Ghana. A convening of heads of state, business leaders, and development partners financing Africa's value chains, strengthening cross-border enterprise, and advancing the continent's industrial transformation. It will be held under the patronage of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana. Africa's direction is set. We are not the story of what could be. We are the proof of what will be. Our future will not be negotiated elsewhere. It will be engineered here in our factories, our ports, our policies, and our partnerships. Africa's transformation will not be given. It will be built, and the building has begun.